Cody Rhodes has become one of the most popular wrestlers in the WWE and he seems ready to be the champion. But in reality, his quest to touch the stars is the dream of a lifetime. Over a period of about 20 years, the son of the great Dusty Rhodes had an incredible journey, where he sometimes was a golden boy of the business with a destiny all mapped out, sometimes a second fiddle condemned to live in the shadow of his legendary father. It's a joy to meet you on the Wrestling Paradise for the third episode of this series, where we dive together into the story of the American Nightmare, the one who, in the WWE, went from undesirable to undeniable. In the previous episode, that you should absolutely watch, we saw how Cody Rhodes was deeply affected by the death of his father, and how he decided to leave Vince McMahon's company when he saw that the officials didn't believe in him. And then how, with the creation of the American Nightmare character and the All Elite Wrestling promotion, he totally got back on track, to the point of arousing the interest of his ex-employer. In this new episode, you will discover, among other things, all the secrets behind Cody's return to the WWE in 2022. The two main things he asked for in his negotiation with Vince McMahon, and how he stupidly injured himself a few days before his Hell in a Cell match against Seth Rollins, but also how he sent messages to all the officials so that this match would not be cancelled, how he was involved in the least watched live Monday Night Raw of all time, and even how he made history at the 2024 Royal Rumble. You are on the Wrestling Paradise, Cody Rhodes, the prodigal son's quest to touch the stars, episode 3, let's go! WrestleMania 38. Seth Rollins is waiting for his mystery opponent. At that moment, Cody Rhodes appears and causes one of the most memorable reactions of the year 2022. So it's official. The former executive vice president of the main competitor, the son of the American dream, is back in the WWE. 6 years after leaving it, he signs a contract there on March 18, 2022. After Vince McMahon and the official Bruce Pritchard came in person to his house to convince him to come back. A sweet revenge when we remember 2016, a time when the company no longer wanted him. Surprisingly, his contract at AEW had expired and he had become a free agent, knowing that he declared that he left Tony Khan's federation because of a personal problem. When the official Bruce Pritchard heard the news from mutual friends and he told them that Cody could call the WWE, 5 minutes later, he had a call from Dusty Rhodes' son. And the next day, McMahon and Pritchard were flying to his home. The two things that Cody asked for before his return were that he keeps his theme song, which he really cared about. And for the record, the phrase that we hear at the beginning, "Wrestling has more than one royal family," is pronounced by Cody himself. And he recorded it several years ago in his living room on his computer. But also that there is never again the slightest reference to his former Stardust character, which will not prevent him from doing a Stardust cartwheel at WrestleMania 38. Cody wanted to remain his American Nightmare character, but fortunately for him, Vince McMahon considered that there was no reason to change it. According to Seth Rollins, Cody's return was finalized 2 weeks before the showcase of the Immortals. And it's pretty crazy that he's making his big return to the WWE in the AT&T Stadium in Texas, because it's the same arena where he did his last WrestleMania in 2016. On the other hand, his mother could not attend this match, because apparently it was her granddaughter's wedding. But still, it did not prevent them from watching the match at the wedding. In any case, as Corey Graves said on commentary when Cody was back, the prodigal son has returned, from undesirable to undeniable. After defeating Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 38, he will do an emotional promo on Monday Night Raw on April 4, 2022 that sums it all up. The only reason he came back is to be champion, which his father has never been in this company, to honor his hero, a beautiful segment that will make Cody one of the most popular babyfaces among the fans. A dream return, which unfortunately will soon become a nightmare. While training at the gym, he is going to want to impress a guy who seemed to challenge him, and he is going to do a bench press at 295 pounds that immediately tears his pectoral muscle. A stupid injury that will keep him away from the ring for 7 months, the first big injury of his career. A long period that will, however, have the advantage of making him improve, especially in terms of nutrition. Just before going away, he will nevertheless prove his mental strength and his badass side by still having his match at Hell in a Cell against Rollins despite a painful injury. This match told a real story and was perhaps the best of the year 2022. From the very beginning, when Seth Rollins unveiled his outfit with yellow polka dots on a black background, it was incredible because it was a direct reference to Dusty Rhodes' outfit. And in addition, it is an outfit that is generally considered as an attempt by Vince McMahon in the early 90s to humiliate the American dream by forcing him to put that outfit on. So it was a real provocation and a great way to get inside Cody's head from Rollins. For his entrance, the American Nightmare had some great pyro, and the moment when he revealed his injury really took the breath away of everyone in the arena. It was impressive. And I must say that now, seeing Cody and comparing him to his first years in the WWE, it's obvious that he has improved in terms of build, stature, and intensity. His way of fighting with this injury was admirable, especially since Rollins tortured him with the kendo stick, for example. There was even a sequence that was a nod to Dusty Rhodes with the use of the Texas Bull Rope. In the end, he will win the match thanks to the sledgehammer, which was traditionally Triple H's weapon of choice. In the days before the match, when Seth Rollins learned from Bruce Pritchard that Cody had torn his pectoral muscle, Rollins was very unhappy and asked if he was kidding him. While initially there were talks to replace the match, Cody fought to make it happen anyway, sending messages to all those involved where he begged them not to cancel it and where he said that, according to his doctor, his injury could not get worse anyway. When he returned to gorilla position after the match, he had a standing ovation, and he will admit afterwards that he lied about his injury, that in reality it hurt him much more than what he said. But Cody didn't want to let people down at the 11th hour, especially since it was his first main event of a premium live event since his return. But he will come back even stronger from his injury, and for his big return, he will win the 2023 Royal Rumble after entering at number 30 and eliminating Gunther after a lot of suspense. So Cody earned the right to finish his story against the champion who has dominated the WWE for years, Roman Reigns. On February 6, 2023 on Monday Night Raw, there was an absolutely extraordinary promo between Cody and Paul Heyman, the special counsel of Roman Reigns. The American Nightmare talked about Paul's past with his father, expressed his gratitude for what Heyman did to help Dusty Rhodes financially in a very deep and touching moment. But Heyman will answer him that Dusty Rhodes trained Roman, but not Cody. But above all, Paul will tell him that in his final conversation with him, Dusty Rhodes told him that Cody was his favorite son, but that Roman Reigns was the son he always wanted to have. It was a promo with rare emotion and depth. On March 3rd, 2023 on SmackDown, we were in Washington DC, 4 weeks before WrestleMania 39. At that time, Roman Reigns was the champ for 915 days, since August 2020. In his crosshairs, there was the one who returned a little less than a year ago, the son of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, Cody Rhodes. The latter will make his entrance while the champion barely had enough time to ask the crowd to acknowledge him. I must say that I'm not really a fan of Cody's attitude during his entrance. I would have preferred him to stand straight and walk towards Roman, staring him in the eye, rather than jumping around, gesticulating everywhere and yelling in a bit ridiculous way. On the other hand, I really appreciate the fact that he has a suit and tie. This is the moment of truth for Rhodes, the moment when he will definitely have to cross a milestone and move to the next level. Reigns is going to throw the titles on the mat in front of Cody and ask him with a very sarcastic tone what he wants to talk about. The American Nightmare starts by congratulating the Tribal Chief for everything he has accomplished, before talking about his own career to show that nothing is impossible for him, not even beating Roman Reigns. The Samoan will immediately put him in his place by reminding him that he never had a chance for the title and even less main-evented WrestleMania. There is a galaxy between the two men. Something that I loved and that I was waiting for in this storyline is that it became personal. Reigns will evoke Cody's father, his weakness, and besides, we can immediately see Cody's face changing and being tense. The Tribal Chief goes so far as to imitate Dusty Rhodes, who told him that he had this it factor, that thing that you can't buy. Roman will then pronounce a heartbreaking sentence that makes us feel a big empathy for Rhodes. "You wanna know what he always used to say about you?" Before having a long silence, and Roman who says, "Nothing." It's as brutal as unexpected, and after telling him that he misses Dusty too, the champion will promise his challenger to teach him everything that the American Dream couldn't, before reaching his hand to him. "You didn't send Mr. Heyman to Raw to get inside my head. You sent him to tell me the truth? If that's the truth, then you are the son he always wanted, And that changes absolutely everything, because it's not just a dream, a want, a desire, or a story that needs to be finished, but this becomes a necessity. And the only way that I can exist is by beating you at WrestleMania. May the better man win, says the one who won the Royal Rumble, shaking hands with the one he wants to defeat on the biggest stage in the world. I really found this promo very good, because the two of them took each other very seriously, but also because it was personal and therefore deep. The story between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns continued on March 20, 2023 on Monday Night Raw. While a little earlier in the show, he had ordered the Usos via Paul Heyman to go relax for the rest of the evening, the Tribal Chief made his entrance in front of the crowd of St. Louis in Missouri. Once again, the leader of the Bloodline barely has time to ask the audience to acknowledge him that the heartbeats of his rival's theme song are heard, which doesn't fail to annoy the one who is at the top of the WWE. A few Raw hosts later, the two meet face to face. Reigns is going right off the bat, telling Cody in the eyes, "You didn't want to do the Stardust thing, so what did you do? You ran away. You started a company and a promotion you couldn't get over in. And then you ran away. And then you came here. And he got over, and his body quit on him as your little peck went pop. You're not cut out for this." To which Rhodes will answer something very memorable in my opinion. "I started here at 20 years old. I wanted to be a superstar. Sometimes I still want to be a superstar, but maybe inside I am just a professional wrestler. And I promise that one day we will talk about the difference between the two words, but for now, Cody continues his promo, promising the champion that he will lose at WrestleMania, and that Jey Uso will leave him. Then it will be Jimmy Uso's turn, then Solo Sikoa's turn, and finally Paul Heyman. It is therefore Rhodes' turn to play with Roman's emotions and weaknesses, and it works since it shakes the champion, who will immediately leave the ring, leaving Solo Sikoa face to face with Cody. The American Nightmare will attack Umaga's nephew, who will want to retaliate with his finisher, but Roman will prevent him from doing so. Tonight, Rhodes managed to get inside Reigns' head. On March 31st, 2023, Los Angeles will host this last edition of the Blue Show before WrestleMania. And I must admit that the story between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, without being bad, is far from being memorable. I do appreciate the fact that they respect each other, that everything is based on their respective weaknesses, and that they are not physically attacking each other so far, but it still lacks substance. It's relatively flat, I think. For once, it's Cody Rhodes who comes in first, always very classy, and he's perfectly ready for this Sunday, more than ever. Something is broken in him, and his only remedy is to beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Last time, Roman told me that I couldn't be the guy in my own company, which is odd because Roman Reigns is an 11-year, tens of millions of dollars investment on behalf of WWE, telling you he's the guy, and it only started paying off in year 8. This Sunday at WrestleMania, I finish, and it is this time the Tribal Chief who will come to brutally interrupt Cody Rhodes. I love the way he will turn around his challenger, looking down at him. Unlike Cody, who wanted to create a connection with the audience, Roman doesn't care at all about them. It's not them he wants to acknowledge him tonight, but Cody Rhodes. Roman lifts the belt as his theme song starts up again. It's really poor, a pure filler segment. And finally, we arrived at the main event of WrestleMania 39. We could have hoped for a finish in which Cody Rhodes just did 3 crossroads, where Roman Reigns was at his mercy. Dusty's son would kneel on the ground, look at the sky, and say, "Dad, I love you. I'm going to do it for you." He would have turned around, Reigns would have cut him with a guillotine. Cody passes out, end of the match, victory for Reigns, who managed to get into Rhodes' head. A deep ending with a meaning which would call for a sequel. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. We could have had a writing like that would have been deep and with a lesson, but that's not the ending we got at all. Instead, we had an interference by Solo Sikoa and a pinfall by Roman. However, the entrances were incredible. The presentation on the microphone of the announcer Samantha Irvin was amazing. The in-ring between Roman and Cody was beautiful, fluid, clean, with rhythm. And then, of course, we had a real story with Cody's quest to make his dream come true in what was the ideal moment for him in his first WrestleMania main event against the final boss Roman Reigns, who had not suffered a pinfall since December 2019 at that moment, which seemed like an eternity. So, the suspense was tremendous, but this controversial finish came to ruin everything. Beyond the result, the manner was really very questionable in my eyes. After more than half an hour with emotions, suspense as rarely, Cody will try a third crossroads in a row by going to the corner of the ring. Paul Heyman will distract the referee, and there, how convenient, with Cody in the corner and the referee who obviously sees nothing, we have Solo Sikoa with his hoodie who comes to interfere. The American Nightmare will tell that moment when he was sitting in the wing after losing at WrestleMania 39 was the biggest feeling of defeat of his whole career, with all these fans watching him. He was surprised how disgusted they were. People from management even told him not to go on the internet right after his loss. However, in this match, Cody had the opportunity to shine by the quality, the flawlessness and the precision of his in-wing, becoming the one who came the closest to beat the Tribal Chief for the first time at that moment. The widow of Brody Lee, who was also there in ringside with her son, to whom Cody gave his belt before the match in a beautiful moment, will tweet that him losing was the wrong decision. The fact of the matter is, he proved that the WWE can bet on him. We never see him make mistakes or botch moves. On the contrary, his way of wrestling is nice to watch, poetic too. I think of his references to Dusty Rhodes, to Ric Flair, his father's iconic opponent, to Triple H by doing his pedigree finisher. Of course, he had not yet managed to win the title, but the officials could see his solidity. He has an ideal profile to carry the company on his shoulders. And we still have to remember that by main eventing WrestleMania, he has already achieved something that his father had never done. And as Paul Heyman himself says, that's what you want, a challenger to come out a bigger star than he would have been if he had won the championship. Because then, where do you go from there? What's the story to tell? Now you know the story, it's Cody's redemption. Cody will say that he will carry this dream of being a WWE champion on his shoulders until it becomes a reality. And, in his own words, you don't lose when you're thrown down, you lose when you stay down. Getting up is the victory. Do you want to discover the rest of Cody Rhodes' journey and how he managed to have another chance to finish his story? Don't worry, you'll know everything by the end of this episode, and his career may surprise you. From the moment Cody Rhodes failed to finish his story at WrestleMania 39, we could ask ourselves, what is he going to do from now on? Will he try everything to get a second chance for the title of Roman Reigns? When will this rematch happen? And if it's for the next WrestleMania, how will WWE make Cody Rhodes interesting for a whole year? Anyway, in the Raw after WrestleMania 39, he was the victim of Brock Lesnar's heel turn, who will attack him by surprise when they were about to form a team to face Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, while the Tribal Chief and his special counsel Paul Heyman had refused him a rematch for the title. It's a situation reminiscent of the one of John Cena in 2012, who, after a traumatic loss at WrestleMania 28 against The Rock, will also be demolished the next day by Brock Lesnar, who was having his big return, experience hardships to finally triumph a year later in a rematch against The Rock. And at the same time, a rivalry against Brock would be like a challenge for Cody, a way to test him and potentially give him maximum credibility and an absolute momentum. Their first match will take place at Backlash in Puerto Rico on May 6, 2023. I must say that I think it was quite a nice matchup, and that it was perhaps the biggest test for Cody since his return to the WWE, since he was facing a heavyweight known for his success in the UFC, a powerful fighter who was bound to make his life very hard. But we can consider that Brock somehow represented the dragon on the path of the hero Cody Rhodes to his revenge against Roman Reigns, or at least his quest for the title that his father never won, and of which he has dreamed since his childhood. First of all, the two men were going at it with moments of domination by one and the other, but Brock was going to end up doing a few suplexes. And at one point, Cody managed to remove a turnbuckle pad in the corner of the ring, on which he would end up sending Lesnar, which would make the Beast Incarnate bleed. On the one hand, we can say that it shows that Cody really wanted to win, but on the other, what I find surprising personally is that it is usually a heel maneuver to expose the steel in the corner of the ring. It is a way of cheating in a way. Why is Cody Rhodes' heroic babyface character doing an action that goes against his values? Nevertheless, this will not prevent the two men from inflicting their respective finishes on each other, until a finish in which Lesnar will try his Kimura submission grip, but Cody will manage to steal the victory with a roll-up, even if it was perhaps the best that his character could hope for against the monster Brock. Anyway, it was clearly a finish that called for a rematch with a legit winner. And it will take place at the next premium live event, Night of Champions, on May 27, 2023. In this match, the configuration will be different, since Cody had his left arm broken by Brock a few days before. He therefore had his arm in a cast and a brace. Dusty Rhodes' son had the opportunity to prove his resilience and perseverance, since facing Lesnar was already very hard, but with this injury, it became even more so. And in the end, he will manage to resist, but after 9 minutes and 40 seconds, he lost consciousness after having suffered Brock's Kimura, which therefore made him lose. However, he didn't give up, which is to his credit. So they were even now in this rivalry, and it called for a final match to finally have a winner, and above all, in a clean way. In the meantime, he will face Dominic Mysterio at Money in the Bank on July 1st in London, England. It mostly looked like a filling program, and Cody will win it in a clean way in less than 9 minutes thanks to his crossroads. And it is at SummerSlam that there will be the endgame of the rivalry against Brock Lesnar, which will have enabled Cody to stay busy for 4 months ultimately. In this match, which unfortunately had no stipulation when it would have been justified since it was already the third match between the two men, Brock was going to hurt Cody several times with suplexes, a clothesline and a F5, yelling at him several times to give up, to stay down, not to come back to fight. But the hero Cody was hanging on, and his perseverance was going to be rewarded. After 17 minutes and a third crossroads, Cody won and had finally defeated the Dragon Brock. After the match, Lesnar ended up showing respect to Cody by shaking his hand, giving him a hug and even raising his arm. After several months of war, Rhodes earned the respect of his rival. So the Lesnar test was validated. We could see that Cody was indeed a badass who was able to beat one of the best. His credibility was even greater. However, there are several elements in this rivalry that I didn't like personally. First of all, in my opinion, it wasn't deep enough. We never officially knew why Brock Lesnar went after Cody Rhodes in the first place. What was the story of this feud? Brock maybe being jealous that Cody was main eventing WrestleMania and not him? Wasn't there an effort to be done on a creative standpoint to make this storyline more interesting and connected to Roman Reigns, for example? We could have learned along the way that in reality, Brock had been paid by Paul Heyman to destroy Cody Rhodes and keep him as far away from Roman as possible, which would have made more sense in this rivalry. When two men face each other in a match, there needs to be a why, in my opinion. A match just to have a match doesn't mean anything in my eyes. So on the one hand, I think it was great that Cody had to pass the Brock Lesnar test to be able to finish his story. But from that time, we could see a complicated situation in which WWE put itself in. It seemed obvious that the rivalry with Roman Reigns was being put on hold until WrestleMania, and it was more than predictable that it would resume about a year later. How can you enjoy following a character's rivalries when you know what's going to happen and there's no unpredictable side? And how can you appreciate everything he will do while waiting to resume his main quest if we know that no matter what, the character will succeed, eventually win the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber, and in the end challenge Roman Reigns for the title? This is a booking that has impacted Cody Rhodes in my opinion, because the whole point of his character is to finish his story, and for months we will just wait for his real quest to continue. So of course at some point he wanted to pursue the new heavyweight title, but I would also add that the fact that he was on Monday Night Raw while Roman Reigns was on SmackDown further reinforced the idea that the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber would be his only two chances to get closer to the Tribal Chief's title again. I would also like to point out that Cody Rhodes had now become the new John Cena in 2023. He was overprotected in booking in general. He was the heroic babyface in his matches and in his promos. But surprisingly, Cody was not rejected by some parts of the crowd in the arenas, unlike Cena. The fact of the matter is, whatever we think of his booking, WWE now had to find ways to keep Cody Rhodes busy until the 2024 Royal Rumble, which is in about 5 months at that point. It should be noted that during the summer of 2023, a documentary about him was released, entitled American Nightmare Becoming Cody Rhodes, which was a Vince McMahon idea initially, according to Cody, to enable all the fans to understand that story that he absolutely wanted to finish. After SummerSlam, Cody Rhodes' attention will go to the Judgment Day faction. in which there's Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley, Finn Balor, and Damian Priest, for an angle that is essentially around one thing: the domination of Monday Night Raw. Once again, we notice that Cody Rhodes is not involved in a psychological or deep rivalry. Could it not have been way more interesting for him to have a rivalry at that time against an opponent who mentally tortures him, who comes to haunt him about WrestleMania 39, for example, and the death of Dusty Rhodes, to make Cody's character even deeper? Unfortunately, we only had a bunch of matches for several weeks around the supremacy in the Red brand, with the Judgment Day, and you will see that it had some consequences. First of all, during the Payback show at the beginning of September, Cody Rhodes was in the Grayson Waller effect segment. Something that I would like to point out about Cody's promos is that at that time, he is now used to start them by saying, "So, what do you want to talk about?" It's true that Cody knows how to do a promo, even if sometimes it sounds too scripted and artificial for my taste. But I think that this catchphrase that he repeats over and over doesn't help him. However, it is not necessarily a bad thing to have one or more catchphrases that you repeat in every promo. It is also what the greatest superstars did in the past. But personally, I find that it is a phrase that simply doesn't make any sense. Cody Rhodes knows what he's going to talk about, so why ask a question he already has the answer to? The fact is that at Payback he will introduce the new member of the Monday Night Raw roster, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns' cousin and former member of the Bloodline, who has now turned on them. It's a rather intriguing situation with a Cody who is somehow causing trouble in Roman Reigns' family. Is Cody Rhodes the man who will definitely turn everyone against Roman Reigns and destroy for good the Bloodline that has dominated WWE since 2020 at that moment? In any case, the following weeks he will continue his rivalry with the Judgment Day, with in particular several matches. Now, we can consider that Cody Rhodes is the top face of the Red brand alongside Seth Rollins. And the question is the American Nightmare well known and popular enough among the casual television audience to carry Monday Night Raw and attract viewers? We will have an answer on September 11. The Red show on that day attracted only 1,353,000 viewers, which is the second worst audience in the history of the show, and about 240,000 fewer people than a year before at the same time. Then, the following week, Raw only interested 1,331,000 viewers, which makes it the worst live audience in the history of the show. On that day, Cody was doing a promo to start Raw, then he had a match against Dominic Mysterio, and even came to help Jey Uso in the main event against the Judgment Day. So, he had an important spot for this unfortunate record. Anyway, this lack of interest from the viewers will not prevent this story from continuing, and at Fastlane, Cody will even become tag team champion with Jey Uso against Finn Balor and Damian Priest. We imagine that this must not have pleased Roman Reigns, who now sees his cousin getting along well with his rival from the last WrestleMania. It should be emphasized that the most entertaining element of Fastlane will probably remain its post-show press conference, in which we saw Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso drunk. It was a hilarious and authentic moment, as we see too rarely. And a few days later, he will meet Roman Reigns on SmackDown, when he had just defended the Tag Team Championship with Jey Uso. It was the first time they had seen each other since the Raw after WrestleMania 39. And, as if it wasn't already clear enough, we can now be sure about one thing. This rivalry will continue soon. Is the WrestleMania main event already spoiled about 6 months in advance? It's really too bad that Cody Rhodes, who is a likable character with charisma, an excellent in-ring, a strong story, an identity, doesn't benefit from a deeper and more creative booking that is also less predictable. In the meantime, we must keep the American Nightmare busy, and after losing the tag team title a few days later against Judgment Day, he will face Damian Priest at Crown Jewel on November 4th. In a match of about 10 minutes, and after avoiding a clothesline, Cody did his crossroads 3 times to win by pinfall. On commentary after Cody won, Michael Cole was saying that Dusty Rhodes' son was now back on the path to finish his story. But in reality, not really, since at Survivor Series for the War Games match, which Dusty Rhodes invented by the way, he will join forces with Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and the returning Randy Orton to face Judgment Day and Drew McIntyre. In my eyes, it was a good moment to see Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes in action in the same ring. These two men who have such a rich history and between whom there could still be a lot to tell. After a battle of about 35 minutes, Orton did his RKO on G-Day McDonough. Then Cody inflicted his crossroads for the victory on Priest. This time we could consider that this angle with the Judgment Day was over, and the show will end with the most shocking pro wrestling moment of the year 2023, the return of CM Punk to the WWE. The kid from Chicago also has a story to finish. He has never main evented WrestleMania, which has been his obsession for years, and the Royal Rumble is just around the corner, since unfortunately WWE no longer seems to set up a premium live event in December. Who from Cody Rhodes or CM Punk will finish his story? Will the Royal Rumble revolve around these two men? The fact of the matter is that at that moment, Cody Rhodes will declare his participation in the Royal Rumble, since this match no longer requires to qualify for it for several years. But at that moment, his new rivalry to keep him busy will appear, the Japanese Shinsuke Nakamura. The latter had been doing promos for several weeks in which he talked about a mysterious opponent, and it was the American Nightmare. And Nakamura will spit his red mist in his face. This will lead to a match on December 11 and then on January 8, a rivalry of which Cody Rhodes will obviously emerge victorious. And at that moment, after months of filling feuds, which unfortunately could have been much better in my eyes, it was finally the Royal Rumble season and time to officially start the road to WrestleMania, in which Cody would therefore resume his quest for the title of Roman Reigns. As you might expect, this whole Royal Rumble was centered on CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, with, as a plan B, the possibility of winning the Elimination Chamber in case of defeat for the loser, which unfortunately took away some interest from this Rumble. Unless there was an original and creative situation where both men would fall out of the ring at the same time, where there would be no official winner and everything would really be decided in the chamber. But the reality will be much more predictable. The two men will indeed be the two last wrestlers, although it would have been much more epic if they had been the first two entrants rather than number 15 for Cody and 27 for Punk. We will have a final battle between the two men giving everything they can to get an opportunity to live their dream. And Cody will be the one to win. At that moment, we must become sufficiently aware of the importance that WWE had just given to the American Nightmare. He was making history by becoming one of the very few men to win the Royal Rumble twice in a row, with Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is a major achievement for Cody, and he can finally point the one he has been wanting to confront for months to finish his story, Roman Reigns. So, his choice for WrestleMania 40 seemed to be made. And yet, we were going to have multiple twists and turns in the following weeks, and an unpredictable WWE, that's for sure. In the next episode, you will find out if Cody Rhodes managed to finish his story at WrestleMania 40, or if Roman Reigns crushed his dream again. If the final boss, The Rock, made sure that he lost as he promised, or if the latter turned on the tribal chief to help the American Nightmare to win. And you will also know all the backstage information about this crazy and unpredictable road to WrestleMania 40, between power struggles, changing plans, and angry fans on social media. Anyway, in this episode, we were able to see that the entire initiatory journey since Cody Rhodes left WWE in 2016 has paid off for him, since he returned to the Stamford Federation by triumphing at WrestleMania 38, and then becoming one of the most popular babyfaces of the company, being closer than ever before in his quest to finish his story after a failed first attempt at WrestleMania 39. Nevertheless, his sometimes predictable and not so entertaining booking can hurt him, although it doesn't seem to bother a whole portion of the fans, which is in particular the one we hear the most on the web. And check this out, I have a debate for you. How would you have booked Cody Rhodes' 2023 year after his loss against Roman Reigns? Would you have imagined deeper stories that would have enabled us to explore more different sides of his character? Or would you have set up the rematch against the Tribal Chief at SummerSlam maybe, instead of waiting a whole year? We invite you to come and give your opinion. It will be interesting to talk about it together in the comments and to share our points of view. We can say that this topic raises a lot of questions. I hope you had a good time watching this video, and I invite you to stay in the paradise of wrestling to look at some other ones, See you right away.
And that's the bottom line, cause Stone Cold said so. What?